The Blind Ambition with Jack Kelly is brought to you by Hims. Hims is changing healthcare by providing access to affordable and discreet sexual health treatments. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/blind. That's HIMS.com/blind for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims.com/blind. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of The Blind Ambition with Jack Kelly. It's your friend Rick from Blind, and today I'm going to introduce you all to George Bezerra, who's the Senior Vice President and Head of Data at the Not Worldwide. He's responsible for leading the global data team across analytics, data engineering, and data science. George has been in the data space for more than 10 years and was previously vice president of data at Frontdoor, where he led the data engineering, machine learning, and data science teams, and TripAdvisor, where he built the data science and analytics functions and led the development of personalization algorithms, in addition to computer vision and natural language processing models. The Not Worldwide is a global technology company that provides content, tools, products, and services, vendor marketplace, which connects couples with local wedding professionals and offers a comprehensive suite of personalized wedding websites, planning tools, invitations, and registry services that make wedding planning easier for couples around the globe. Thanks for coming on the show, George.
Thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hopefully I did your background some justice, but just in case I didn't, can you walk us through your career, George?
You did justice more than that. And I spent time in a few other companies, and in fact, we've met each other and worked together at Metro Mile. I have an academic background. So starting from the very beginning, I did, a master's in machine learning, applied to bioinformatics, PhD in computer science, postdoc in computer architecture and big data. So I've been around in terms of research and academics. I'm from Brazil originally, so I did kind of my undergrad and my master's there, and I came to the US to do my PhD in computer science. From there, I went to MIT for my postdoc. And by the time of my PhD, I felt like the trajectory was a bit too long, and I was already kind of losing a little bit of the excitement for research. In that process, being in that environment, learning from others, I was already starting to think about, should I try industry? Should I try something different? I had a friend who talked to me and said, "Hey, have you heard about this data science thing? Like, I've been doing this. It's really nice. Like, you have the background for it." Data science was nascent at that time. I did some research and I'm like, wow, this sounds like a really good opportunity. It mixes some of the academic background that I have with the industry. I wanted to learn something new, do something different. And I take the leap. I got a job at TripAdvisor. I was there for 5.5 years. I started as a data scientist, individual contributor. It was kind of an experiment for them, like the first data scientist that they hired in that kind of business unit to see if there was like an opportunity there. There was. After a year, we started having some really good results and started to build a team. I felt like I was at the right place at the right time. Over time, we did do a lot of data science and ML work across a bunch of different areas. And where I am now, they're Not Worldwide, where we do everything. Like I'm head of data here. We do full stack, and so you name it: analytics, data science, machine learning, BI, and we also do BI and data pipelines, data ops, ML ops. Everything is kind of part of our team, and it's a great team. It's a really nice company. I'm super happy about the role itself. I don't know that there was a master plan.
George, can you help me out? Because for myself, this might be a naive question. When you say data scientist, I've always see when you have lists of like the top 10 tech jobs, data scientist is always up there. What does it really mean when you strip out all the jargon? Like, how does that work? Do you have a lab? Like, what goes on behind the scenes?
That's a great question, and I would say the answer can be a bit confusing because it's changed over time. And it means different things in different companies. We just have to accept that there isn't a universal definition of data scientist. In the beginning, it was more tied to people that are building models. Like, I'll share my perspective, by the way. That's by no means the universal perspectives. building models like machine learning models, statistical models, and applying those concepts to business problems. Right? But over time, what started to happen is that the term became so popular that everyone wanted to be a data scientist, but not everybody had a PhD. It's still a very technical role. But what happened is that different companies started to create different nomenclatures or different approaches for what data science means. For example, at Airbnb, you have three kinds of data scientists, right? You have a data scientist that does algorithms. And I don't know if they still have this denomination, but I think that's still what they do, which is algorithms, the person that's actually building models. Then you have data scientists, I think it's causal inference, which are people doing experimentation and statistics. And I think there is another one that's like data science analytics, which is more like analysts, and they're called data scientists. Or companies like Meta, where the role data scientist is a lot more like an analytics role. So what's happening in the industry is that the term data science or data scientist has been diluted to encompass a lot of different functions and roles. It used to be very prestigious. It's becoming a little less prestigious, I would say, because of that. Uh, a lot of what's happening is that analysts are becoming more like data scientists. Data scientists want to become more like ML engineers, and ML engineers want to be like AI engineers, AI scientists. One interesting anecdote, back at TripAdvisor, we used to have multiple kind of decentralized data science teams. And we had a team that I worked in the attractions, like things to do, experiences, and vacation rentals. My team was called data science team. And there's another team that was the ML team. The ML engineering team worked on the hotels. But we essentially did the same job. It's just we're operating in different areas, but we had different names. I would have conversations with that team where I would get to them, oh man, I'm thinking of retitling our team as machine learning, because I've been attracting a lot of people that have analytics profile, and I want to have people that are more coders and more like ML stuff. They would actually, you know what? I've been thinking about transitioning to data science because I've been attracting a lot of software engineers, and I'm looking for people that actually know more modeling and more data. In my current company, I had a lot of issues with that. What a data scientist was and an analyst was weren't very well defined, and there was a little bit of overlap, and that created a lack of clarity around roles and responsibilities, which generated confusion. So step one, what we did is we're going to have data scientists focus on modeling rather than doing analytics and doing experimentation. Experimentation goes to analysts, and analysis go to analysts, reports go to analysts, and data scientists only do modeling and build machine learning models and so on. And with the help of engineers, we can productize that, put that in production. But as we started doing this, what we realized that we're asking a lot of our analysts, because we're asking them to learn Python, we're asking them to learn statistics, we're asking them to learn DBT, right? DBT, for those who are not familiar, is a data build tool. Is the most popular open source data engineering tool. Is so everyone in data knows about this tool. That's where you can build production data pipelines, right? And that's accessible to analysts and data scientists, rather than just building ad hoc queries. And data science is a technical and strategic function that you do a lot of experimentation within the product, especially. So statistics, Python, and the ML scientist is the person that is actually building models that go into production. The data scientist builds models too, but those are models that are used for interpreting data, for kind of providing insights. They aren't necessarily going to production.
See, that makes sense. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it starts out, you have maybe a clean, calling it data scientist, but then with all the different changes that happen so quickly, and like you pointed out about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so forth, that it just kind of gets blurry about what you're doing. But for people who will be watching this and listening to the podcast, and if they were interested in moving into the space, what would they need to have? And I know from the way you described it, it's not clean cut. Would you need to be a software engineer who knows how to code, or do you have to just be really great with numbers? What are some of the things a person could do to move into this space?
I would say the challenging aspect of it is that it depends on the role, depends on the company. The good thing is that there are all kinds of flavor of data science out there, and so there is probably something that fits your requirements, right? I would say Python, definitely. Whether any working data, whether it's a data engineer, a data scientist, ML, CI, you need to know Python and SQL. It's what connects our entire organization. I would say for a data scientist, you definitely want to know the basics of experimentation, A/B testing, causal inference, hypothesis testing, basic distributions. And I would say finally, like basic ML modeling, like you building a cluster analysis, a regression analysis, a classifier. We're not talking about big LLM models or deep learning. It's like you can use scikit-learn, and that's going to take you very far. The final thing that you need, I would say, is business acumen. Like you need to know about the business. Like that's one of the biggest challenges. People coming from academia is that you live in a kind of a bubble, like a different world, but where we can just focus on that technical problem. But here in the industry, right, you really have to understand the business and have to apply that knowledge and produce something valuable and impactful.
I really appreciate that breakdown because, in my understanding, it seems to me that analysts seems to focus on internal stakeholders in terms of what are the questions that the business throughout its operation just naturally has and needs to get answered. That might be more of an analytics function. Whereas, data science is almost like trying to productize data and analytics in terms of how can we improve the product or improve the feature set so that it can, have that incremental impact or that increased scope. But perhaps it's really just about kind of the underlying competencies or the skill set that's different. Is that a kind of a correct summary, George?
Well, actually, I really like what you just said about. I never thought about it that way, to be honest. Like, and I think it's a nice distinction. But definitely the skill set matters. Like you can go farther, you can build data products. And I know the term data product can mean so many things. It's so unclear. Nobody knows what it is, but you can actually build data products. And by that, I mean, you can build a pipeline, you can build a model, deploy that. Like if you have the proper support, you can actually write code, period. Right. And I would recommend people to, if you are a data scientist, to actually write code. I think that could be another distinction. Like you write code versus you use Excel, right? So it's a combination of things. The focus area matters, the technical skill matters. You could have an analyst that is looking to the product features, but if you are a data scientist, you can go deeper. You can get more business value. You can find stronger opportunities. And people are becoming more encouraged to become their own analysts. So I think to distinguish yourself, I think doing something that is more technical and more difficult it becomes more important, right? The need for data is increasing. We can't be hiring more and more analysts to solve this problem. So people are figuring out how to do it themselves. The more technical team, they're building tools that are self-service, where you build some code or some streamlined application. People can start using it, building their own report and gathering their own insights.
This episode of The Blind Ambition with Jack Kelly is brought to you by BetterHelp. For anyone out there who needs to hear this, you are more than your job. Don't get us wrong. Passion for your work is great, but it's so important to find joy, fulfillment, and validation in your life as a whole, not just at work. And therapy can help you get there. We all go through ups and downs in our career. Maybe you're thinking about switching career paths or you're feeling super burned out in your job. You might be struggling with the uncertainty of our current economy or trying to manage the anxiety that can come up during the job interview process. Whatever it is, you're not alone and therapy can help. Therapy gives you a place to talk through what's going on at work in a safe and supportive environment, figure out what goals you have for your life and career, and build the confidence to go out and make them happen. Otherwise, it's easy to stick at the same old, even if it's not making you happy. If you're interested in giving therapy a try, BetterHelp offers affordable online therapy on a flexible week-to-week schedule so you can fit it into your day. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get started, then BetterHelp will match you with a licensed therapist based on your needs, preferences, and goals. Connect with your therapist by text, phone, or video call. Start the process in minutes and switch therapists anytime. Elevate your work and your life with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/teamblind for 20% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/TEAMBLIND BLIND for 20% off your first month.
Throughout your career, you've led analytics, business intelligence, data engineering, data science, machine learning teams. How has the criteria or the interview process that you, as the head of the function, the executive, the hiring manager, how has that changed over time? You've alluded to the fact that it's certainly become a bit more technical. There's even an expectation of coding requirements for some roles. How else has this position evolved over time?
I would say that you caught up on the theme. Like we are building a technical team, and those are skills that are difficult to learn on the job. Yes, we tend to favor PhDs when we're hiring like data scientists, right, or ML scientists, like especially leaders. First thing we look for PhDs, right? Because there is something about the kind of thought process, right? The curiosity, the investigation, and the collection of tools that the person has built up over time. And so usually technical PhDs, right? People that have done computer science or engineering or economics. So we do have a little bit of a bias there. Depends on the role. If I'm looking for, a data engineer, that's not as relevant. Like we would certainly prefer someone that has a master's degree. Can you do a good job without those things? Of course you can. It's just a matter of like narrowing down to the right candidates. We screen a lot for technical competencies. You can run tests. You can do coding exercises. Those are actually very easy. The hard part is the behavioral part, where you're looking for people that are owners, people that move fast. You have critical thinking and you take initiative. Those are kind of the across the entire group. And also, the more business oriented the role, the more business acumen matters. Like a data scientist is going to have, or a BI engineer. I think that the understanding of metrics and business that matters more. For a data engineer or a data ops engineer in particular, that matters a lot less because it's a much more technical role.
Now, is there a way from looking at the job description to figure out how a company or how a team might approach the distinction between what's, in the hardcore analytics camp versus machine learning versus data science? Like if I am trying to break into a company, what are the kind of clear or easy ways or surefire ways that can help me figure out, does that team's current understanding of these disciplines and functions work with my experience?
I would say go by the job description, like the actual requirements of the job, more so than the title. Unless you are interested in a particular title. The titles, as we talked about, can vary quite a lot. Go for the ones that you believe make the most sense for you.
Got it. So the cheat code might be to have a more inclusive search and not just focus on the title then. Because there might be some hidden data science roles that are mislabeled as analytics or vice versa.
The interesting thing is that I heard this from others, is that people like the data science title. Like if you're an analyst and you can get and I'm doing the same job at a different company, but that company has a data science title, they tend to appreciate that. They think more prestigious. On the other hand, what I've also heard is that you are a data scientist at a company, but all that you do is to operate on Excel the whole day. And that can be very frustrating because you have those expectations for the role. I want to build models, I want to do that kind of stuff. And all that I do is like Excel spreadsheets and BI reports. I think it can go wrong both ways. So are you more interested in the title or the work that we're going to be doing?
Now, in terms of ads of today's working world and tech generally, it seems like everyone also wants to have machine learning or AI in their job title. Can you help us figure out the skills and experience that are needed to kind of get into those roles? How to figure out, what is a hype up role versus an actual machine learning functional role?
So there is the person that actually builds models. This person, that's actually my background. That's what I used to do at very, very, very beginning of my career. You want someone that understands the math behind the models. Like you can build a deep learning algorithm nowadays with a couple lines of code and still get good results. Or you can use XGBoost, which is super powerful, a tree-based algorithm and get amazing results. I personally look for people that understands the math behind. They're not just applying a black box model. because that allows you to really know what's going on, come up with the best approach. You're not limited by kind of your knowledge. Like you can actually go beyond the basics. That would be, my company, what we call the machine learning scientist. That person builds the models. There's also the machine learning engineer, which in some companies, that's what they do. That's the person that builds the models. So the titles could mean different things. Definitely someone that is more machine learning engineer and like engineering oriented. That person is definitely a coder. So the two competing skills here are someone that knows the math behind the models and someone that is a strong coder, like a computer scientist that knows less about the math. So the engineer is going to gravitate more about the coding side. And the third role is the ML ops engineer. The ML ops engineer is similar to the ML engineer, but they are building the infrastructure for you to deploy models and operationalize models, manage models. They're building APIs, and they don't build any models themselves, right? They don't have to know the math at all. All these roles, they kind of blend, there's overlap, but they gravitate towards a certain profile. So in one extreme, you have the ML scientist. All they do is to build models. They're not necessarily great coders. On the other extreme, you have the ML ops person that builds no models. All they do is to build the infrastructure, and the ML engineer lives somewhere in between. They could do, depending on the company, they could do what the data scientist or the ML scientist does, or they could do what the ML ops person does.
What about if you take a rung down or two for like data analysts, business analysts? Is that a hot area as well?
Absolutely. Like data is very hot. It's a very hot area. Software engineering is a bit, is having a bit of a harder time, but it's still hiring. But data continues to be hot. But if you're an ML ops person or an ML scientist, you're going to get paid more, right? Like an analyst is going to be a less prestigious job. The more technical you are, the higher the pay grade is going to be, at least in this field. Like Excel spreadsheets, querying data, you can be a data scientist, but it's not the most technical data scientist. If you know Python, you are one step above because it opens up ML modeling. It opens up programmatic work because you can write code now, and you can optimize your own work. You can automate your own work. You can do all kinds of things at that point. So you unlock a lot of value for yourself and for your impact. So
generally, it seems like in terms of compensation, back to your point about more technical experience and backgrounds being kind of rewarded, it seems like analysts are on one end and then data scientists are on the other. And then data scientists are on one end again, and machine learning engineers are, on the higher end. Is that kind of a good summary there?
I think so, yeah. But I'm sharing what I've encountered. I don't think this is a universal rule. I even remember years ago talking to folks at Airbnb who said all their three kinds of data scientists make the same. So it almost contradicts directly what I just said. And so it really depends on the company industry. But that's what I've observed over time.
Now, for anyone else that's interested in getting a career in data science, business intelligence, machine learning, analytics, what advice do you have for them? What are the things that they must do now beyond the core competencies of Python, SQL, having that functional experience with numbers and having that analytical quantitative interest?
One example, I would say, like, degrees matter. Like having a master's degree matters. Like in this type of field, like in a PhD matters, but it's not a determinant. If you're self-driven, all this information is available there. You can learn. You can go start like learning about data science, learning about ML. There are books, there are tutorials, there are YouTube videos. There's everything. We do encounter people that are self-taught, and they do a great job. Like those people have the curiosity, they have the excitement, they're passionate. If you can get a degree, it's going to help you. But it's becoming more and more common that people are self-taught because there's so much information out there. That's one thing. The other thing, whether you have a job or not in this area, like stay up to date with what's going on. I'm reading about the newest papers, the newest blog posts. I know what this company is doing, that company is doing. This is going to not only get you better at your job, get you more technical. It's going to give you ideas for how to innovate, to bring those things into your workplace. In my team, this is something that we value. Like everyone that is kind of data science, ML, we have a reading group. It's weekly. It's sometimes, oh man, it's painful. I have to read the paper again, and then I have to be on top of that. Like it's a bit of a chore sometimes, but man, you see the improvements in the team. You see the discussions become a bit more elaborate, deeper, and we start to do cool stuff. Like let's say there's an open source LLM model that came out, and it's a lot lower cost to run, a lot less compute resources to run than Llama. Well, let's build this here. Let's deploy this. We read the paper, we understand how it works, and in the end, that brings excitement and brings business value.
Yeah, I appreciate that advice because it seems like even when you're on the job, there's still a lot of opportunity to continuously learn, right? About the new LLMs, about the new trends, about how different companies are adopting. But it seems as long as you have the same foundational experience in terms, understanding how your job ties into the industry or business's objectives in terms of how they might make money, learning Python, learning those hard skills, you can still succeed in no matter which company or what title you have.
Absolutely.
I appreciate this advice and this intro into your field, into your functional experience. Thanks for coming on the show, George.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
guys.
George.
I really enjoyed it. Appreciate the opportunity.
That's it for The Blind Ambition. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and a review. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.